Hello, my name is Jenna and I work at Altis Consulting. Today I'm going to show you a fun challenge that you might encounter when working with data. And we're going to solve the problem with a nifty maneuver in Power BI. The best way to introduce this common data challenge is probably with an example. So let's jump in, starting our journey in Microsoft Excel, which many of you will be familiar with. Imagine you work for a company that has hired these various staff members at different times. So you have a list of staff names, and for each staff member, the HR or human resources system has recorded the date that that staff member joined the company and the date they left it. Your job is to figure out the total number of staff who were still working at the company at each of these points in time. These are annual points in time, we're calling it the reporting date, and it's just a point in time snapshot of the total number of staff. You want to end up with something like this, a visualization showing for each reporting date, how many staff members in total are working at the company. And the only data you have on hand is the start date and end date of each staff member. How do you get this? It's a fun puzzle. And it's going to be the same strategy, regardless of whether we have 2 staff members or, 200. So let's look at a simplified version to begin with. Just 2 staff members, just so you can really see the mechanics of how this works. And let's look at a subset of the reporting dates and solve this first in Microsoft Excel, then transfer the solution, see how it's done in Power BI. All right, step number 1 is to do a cross join. What does this look like? Well, for each staff member, we're going to split out a new row for every reporting date. So let's begin with Ruby. We're going to give her 4 rows corresponding to each reporting date of interest. And we're going to populate her rows with her start and end dates. So let's go ahead and fill those rows up. And let's do the same for Noah. We're going to give him 4 rows corresponding to each reporting date of interest. Essentially, we've done a Cartesian product, if you're familiar with that term. Why are we doing this? Feels like a bit of nonsense initially, but you'll soon see that this is very useful. I'm going to create a new column. I'm going to call it active status. Now at this point, I'm going to ask myself, for each row, is the reporting date between the start and end date for that staff member? And if it is, as is the case for our first row, then I'm going to put a 1. And if it's not, as is the case for Noah here, 30th of June 2022 is before his start and end date, then I'm going to flag that with 0. Now, we could just manually fill in 1s and 0s by eyeballing whether the reporting date is between start and end. But to save us a bit of time, I'm going to write a little conditional formula. So we'll just say if the reporting date in J2 is greater than or equal to the start date, and if the reporting date is, I'm just going to say less than, but you can say less than equals to, depends on your circumstance. If the reporting date is less than the end date, then yes, the staff member was working at that reporting date. And if the reporting date is outside of that time frame, then no, staff member wasn't working then. Great. I'm going to populate all the rows with that formula. And there we have it. A little flag to tell us whether the report date is between start and end for each staff member. We're nearly there. Problem is nearly solved. All we need to do now is sum up the active status for each reporting date. Now, the easiest way to do this in Microsoft Excel is probably with a pivot table. So let's go ahead and insert pivot table. select the range that we need. Go OK, and just drag the reporting date field into rows and drag active status into values. There we have it. Excel gives us a nice sum of the active status. In other words, the total number of people who were active at the company for each point in time. Solved. I think we're ready for the main game, which is to look at the full list of people and the full list of reporting dates and have a go at solving this using Power BI. Here's a blank report in Power BI. And first off, we're going to just bring the data in. So import data from Excel, select the workbook of interest, open it up, and we're soon going to select the particular tables of interest. So here's our full list of staff members and our full list of reporting dates. That's all we need. Let's select Transform Data. And pretty much all of our solution will be in the query editor. So here we can see our two tables. Let's go to People. And if you remember our first step from the Excel demo, we need to do a cross join. How do we do this in Power BI? It's pretty neat. We go up here to the ribbon tabs and Add Column, then select Custom Column. You can name this new column anything you want. It doesn't really matter, as this step is more of a means to an end. So I'm going to keep the default name of Custom. But importantly, in this formula field, we get to decide exactly what to put in those column values. So I'm going to start typing the name of the report dates table. And awesome, Power BI has predicted that I want to select the report dates table. And check out what happens. Whoa, we've got tables within a table. And if we click into any one of these tables, we can see it's exactly that reporting date table that we're now so familiar with. Okay, go back. We can also select any cell here and see a little preview of that same table. But we're not quite done. It doesn't look quite right because at this point, I want to be trying to compare for each reporting date whether it is between the start and end date for each staff member, right? So to do that, we need to come up here to the little button with two arrows. Select it, make sure the expand option is ticked, and go OK. Here we go. Now we have a row for every reporting date for every staff member. Next step, we come up here again to Add Column, but this time select Conditional Column. I'm going to call this new column Active Status, just the same as we did in Excel. And essentially, we're writing that conditional formula where we are checking if the reporting date is between the start and end. Power BI is a little constrained, though, and doesn't allow you to say if a date is between A and B, then do something. So we're going to have to go about it from a slightly different angle, but it's pretty much the same. Let's go. If the reporting date is before the start date, then no, the staff member hasn't started working there yet. Else, if the reporting date is after or equal to the end date, then also no, the staff member has left the company. And if neither of these cases are true, that means the reporting date is between the start and end date. So let's put a 1. Okay. Awesome. Now we have a new column that indicates whether a staff member was active or not at each reporting date of interest. We are very nearly there, and the final step is simply to sum up the active status for each reporting date. How do we do this in Power BI? come back up to the ribbon tabs and select the tab Transform, then select Group By. In this field, we can select what to group by, and we're going to group by the year or the reporting date. We're going to call a new column staff total. That's probably sensible. So in this new column, we want the total number of staff. We're getting close to the final solution. And we're going to choose sum as the operation and make sure we're summing the active status. Give this a whirl. Woohoo! There we have it. We have a neat summary of the number of staff members total for each reporting date. And that's basically it. We've solved the problem in Power BI for a full list of staff members and reporting dates. Now, if you like, you can visualize it. So for the satisfaction, I am going to go ahead and close and apply all those changes we made in the query editor to create a new, we created a new table, and we can now use that table to whip up a nice visualization. So we're here in the report view with a fresh new canvas, and I'm going to select a clustered column chart because I think that's a suitable choice. Make that a little bigger. And in the tables here, I'm going to select the total staff field because we definitely want to plot the total number of staff against the dates we're interested in for reporting. All right, I don't really like how Power BI has default sorted this. So let's go ahead and change the sorting to sort by date. And let's make sure it's in ascending order. There we have it. From here, we might just want to reword the titles to something more meaningful, but that's pretty much done. Problem solved.